Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Transfer Show, the show where you should never, ever, ever be caught without a hat. Welcome to today's show. Let's get on with it. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show. Thank you so much as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines on the Gooner Talk every single morning at this time, of course. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate your time, really listening. I really appreciate your listenership, rather, as that sentence and that order of words that I would like it to go in. But thank you so much as always for tuning in, and it is greatly appreciated indeed. If you could drop a like, I very much appreciate that as well. Yesterday, we had a mission. Yesterday's mission was successful. We managed to complete an amazing late swoop to get the show, not yesterday's show, the day before, to that 1,000 like mark. And it took friends, it took family, it took our Discord server going into overdrive. Yesterday's show, easy peasy. 1,500 likes, we smashed it, did a great job. But there was a late push. It was deadline day, and we succeeded. There was no Raheem Sterling. It was just a brilliant piece of work going on in the world. I've got a new light in this room, and you can actually see that new light, but you can see like a tiny, teeny, weeny part of it. Turn the camera, you can see all of it. It's there. Just realising the top left-hand corner of the screen. But it's, I might need to change the placement of that because I don't think it... I don't think it works quite like that. But good morning to you all joining us in the chat box. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing so well as well to be in our chat. Rich, good morning to you. To Moabi, good morning to Mark and Rob and Ranger. Good morning to Grantley Poos. We've got Paul. We've got Brad and Matt G. We've got Loga and Martin. We've got Jean and Maximius. Brad and other Martin and Kirill. Good morning to Black Shine, to Vivian, to Javier. We've got Runs with Cows, Darbas, Steve, we've got Owen, we've got Mohammed and Spearmint. Good morning to you. Angela and Leroy, we've got Andoni in the chat box also. Plenty of you guys and girls. So good to see. I can't talk this morning. What is going on? My order of my words is just not coming out the way I would quite like it to, apparently. So bear with me. And I'll try my best not to have a breakdown during today's episode. Right, let's jump to today's slides, shall we? And we'll start to run through the stories contained within, as, of course, we are still very much in the fallout of that fixture against Manchester United on Sunday afternoon. But Arsenal are among all of the 20 Premier League teams to have completed the first match day of the weekend. Of course, the results on Sunday that joined Arsenal's 1-0 win over United were a 3-1 victory for Nottingham Forest and a 0-0 draw between Chelsea and Crystal Palace, which, of course, witnessed one of the worst refereeing decisions. I don't know if it's one of the worst refereeing decisions, but it's one of the worst officiating laws. I mean, I can't really blame the referee, it turns out, because during Ebereze's free kick, apparently it's a rule that you can't be within 1 meter of a 3 or more person wall. I don't get it. I think it's a stupid rule. A wall's there, but players should be able to, have an impact on things. And it's a contact sport, for goodness sake. Where are these rules coming from that are just stopping players from interacting with one another during the game? But that ended 0-0 as Chelsea's title hopes already take a bit of a blow. And then on Monday night, we had the final game of the weekend, or rather the kind of game week, if you will, it being Monday night. Leeds United winning 1-0 against Everton. Really important victory there. Late penalty. Again, a little bit of a contentious handball decision as Tarkowski was punished for what seemed to be quite a harsh handball decision in the box. But it seems that VAR has taken full attention during the opening week of the campaign. And what that means is the table looks something like this. I can't believe Arsenal are 6th. Arteta out and all that. But yeah, Arsenal are among 7 teams who managed to win their opening fixture of the weekend. City, Sunderland, Spurs, Liverpool, Forest, Arsenal and Leeds all managing to do so. We then have Brighton, Fulham, Villa, Chelsea, Palace and Newcastle all on 1 point. And Everton, Man United, Bournemouth, Brentford, Burnley, West Ham and Wolves all so far yet to get a point on the boards, of course, as well. So, yes, Arsenal still in the hunt for the title. 37 games to go, unbeaten, 100% record, beautiful scenes. Who can complain? Well, everyone, because we're sixth. But some interesting kit news. Again, more kit news. We kind of talked about these leaks before about Arsenal's potential home kit for next season having 2 different shades of red. That was some footy headlines. But now another leak from Opa Leak. Can't say I've heard too much about them, but it was being shared across my socials, so I thought I would share it with you. And that's that apparently next season's Arsenal away kit could feature a reversed bruised banana style. Of course, you remember the famous yellow and navy bruised banana kit. Well, imagine that, but in reverse, where kind of the yellow is the bruising and the banana is properly bruised. Let's just say it that way. Where the navy is the more dominant color on the kit. That could be what is coming back for Arsenal next season. So yeah, I guess we will wait and see if this turns out to be true. Meanwhile, John Davies yesterday for The Sun reported that Arsenal and Stuttgart are said to be around £8 million apart in their valuation for Fabio Vieira. Arsenal want around £25 million, but Stuttgart want to pay closer to 17 million at the moment. David Ornstein also doing a piece this morning around Arsenal's sales situation, with Arsenal in talks with Porto over a move for Jakub Kiwior. Fulham, of course, also in discussions over a move for Nelson. However, no offers so far sent to Arsenal has satisfied their demands at this point, and those clubs are hoping that Arsenal will lower their expectations around a move. But he does confirm, interesting, that Vieira's talks are apparently centered around a loan with an obligation to buy if performance-led targets are met, and a figure of 17 million has been discussed. So it's not even that the money would come in immediately. It would be a loan with an obligation to buy if he plays however many games or whatever. This is, I think this is James McNicholas more so than David, but it's in David's kind of piece, and James McNicholas is, of course, adding this information to it. Levante are said to hold, or would like a loan move for Carl Hein, but Arsenal are hoping for a permanent buyer at this stage of the day. So one to look out for as Arsenal continue to try and sell and move on their players, but it's proving still very much a challenge at this point, which is a rather large frustration, seems to be the case. Now, I'll end part 1 before we go into part 2, and of course your questions and more, with this theme to today's show. I saw this post doing the rounds yesterday. Arsenal get criticised for beating Man City 5-1, and Man United are being praised for losing 1-0 at home to Arsenal. Wenger's Arsenal were criticised for years for being too soft and not knowing how to win ugly. And Arteta's Arsenal are being criticised for being physical and knowing how to win ugly. Honestly, everyone just becomes delusional when it comes to Arsenal. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the social and psychological element of Arsenal right now amongst kind of the footballing space, because it is this. This is exactly what is going on. Arsenal, no matter what they do, where they go, who they beat, who they manage to overcome, always get criticised. Every single place we find ourselves in, no matter what the result, there is always something to complain about. Man United fans have convinced themselves they actually managed to win that game on Sunday afternoon, apparently because there were supposedly fouls and Saliba apparently gave away a penalty and they were the better team. They won that game 3-1. According to those rules, turns out don't actually need to score goals to get on the score sheet these days in football. But it is just this chaos that we find ourselves in around Arsenal Football Club. And so I really want to send out something of a plea, if you like, because this needs to be us. The Arsenal fan base is notorious for infighting. It is notorious for just ridiculous takes and just bickering amongst itself. And we don't all have to agree. But this needs to be us this season. Arsenal fans need to stick together this season when it comes to the campaign. Things might not go particularly well always. There's going to be difficult moments. There's going to be great times. There's going to be challenges. But we need to fight this fight. We need this siege mentality, if you like, amongst Arsenal supporters, because it just seems the world is against us right now. And the world of sport wants to see Arsenal fail. I saw a Coventry fan, for the love of all that's good in this world, complaining that while he wants Gyökeres to do well, he couldn't stand the idea of Arsenal winning the league. the hatred of Arsenal goes deep. It goes down the footballing pyramid. We're just not very well liked. We need to stick together. We need to be an absolute unit, a unified force this season, and we need to be backing our boys. And this unity, this collective nature that we find our players, together, celebrating, working, training, performing, winning as one, that needs to be us. We need to do that. We need to be a unit. We need to be backing our side, backing ourselves. It's us against the world right now. And no matter where we go, who we are facing, it's just very much a battleground for us. So it's a bit of a rallying call. And of course, to my fellow content creators as well, that let's stop creating division amongst each other and really take this forward into the season as one. Doesn't mean we can't all agree or have to agree on everything, or we can have our fun debates and be critical. We need to be critical, but in terms of kind of this whole, I've seen some fans getting on board with rival supporters in their view. Again, I'll say this again. I get that Arteta is a divisive character amongst the Arsenal fan base and he drives us. But when it comes to rival supporters who are very critical of Arteta, just remember, they weren't this loud when Emery was doing bad things with us. They weren't this loud when Arsene Wenger had probably overstayed the time in which he was with us as manager. But they're loud now. And you know why they're loud now? And they want to discourage you from wanting to keep this man at the club. It's because they're scared of him. It's because they're worried about what he has done. It's because they're annoyed that he has taken Arsenal back into title establishment and relevancy amongst its top competitions. They want him gone because they want Arsenal gone. And they know that we're not going anywhere right now with him in charge. So saw a great tweet that was like, I think it was from Ali on Twitter. Chief tweeted the record that Arsenal have against the big six sides prior to Arteta's arrival at the club, just with the caption, Arteta changed my life, because some of the records that Arsenal used to have against big six teams, against sides away from home like Manchester United, for example, things have changed drastically, hugely, massively in the last 5 years. So I'm looking forward to this season, and I really hope the Arsenal fan base can come together and really back this side all the way to the end. And fingers crossed, it leads us to some silverware. Well, let's go to part two. Your questions, your thoughts. How did I press the button? I didn't mean to do that. Should I try that again? Let's go to part two. Get some of your comments, some of your questions, some of your thoughts right after this. Right, this is part two of a better attempt to go through the mid-roll credits there. But let's jump into the chat box and tackle some of your feelings and some of your thoughts as well. Let's go to Q. This is Tom. It's not your colleagues in the media, non-Arsenal bias, who continually paint this negative Arsenal dialogue. Or rather, is it not your colleagues? Well, not all of them, but I'm not going to be naive enough to say that, certainly elements of the media are rather scathing of Arsenal. I think that would be very, very fair to say at this point. So I don't blame you, kid, for having that view at all, certainly. LMS says they played their best, we played our worst and still won. I'd be mad too. Claire in the chat says, celebrating 23 months of membership. Nice hat, Tom. It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. The line has been crossed now. It's never recoverable, I don't think. It's going to take some incredible hard work. And probably around £7,000 in super chats to recover this situation. So Matt G says, Tom, are you No, I'm not. I'm just clicking buttons that I shouldn't be. Roshan says, Tom, what do you think, or rather, what do you think about Lookman being a legit option late in the window? There has been historical interest. I mean, if you said that Arsenal are going to get Lookman before the window closes, I'd be pleased about that. He's a player that I like. He's a player that, if we're not getting Eze, I don't think the age bracket necessarily comes into it as much as it did before that. So, yeah, I'd be very open to the idea of Ademola Lookman joining Arsenal. Earl says, do you think Semenyo would be a good addition? I mean, he's just signed a new contract, so he's not going anywhere. Literally this summer signed a new deal. Cheryl said, great words, Tom. If Arteta became available, how many teams would be in for him? As Kevin, sorry. Yes, it would be. It would be a scenario where every top team that's looking for a manager would be after him. It's fair to say. Saiku says some of our fans need to stop supporting Arsenal through the validation of rival fans because they will never get it. And John says, Tom, Man United supporters saying their goalkeeper was fouled for our goal, but would it have been a penalty because Cunha both had his arms around Zubamendi while not looking at the ball? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Man United fans saying that the goal shouldn't have counted, just reaching beyond all measure. It was an obvious goal. And India had to be stronger. And also, you've got to think about there was a corner in the box. I think that David Raya rose above those, impeding him to punch away. Perfect example of what he needed to do. Jasper says the fighting for a win isn't the issue. The inability to create chances or make the final ball from the transition is the big worry. And we talked a lot about that yesterday. And obviously, I think it shows you the potential that we've got. And, we're creating the opportunities on the counter with this transition. But at the moment, we're not delivering that final pass. We're not delivering that final moment that, we need to get the result that we need. So, yeah, I agree with you. We need to be in a better position to be able to create and be more clinical and be more efficient in those moments. Bacon Fang says we turned into Millwall as in the. I don't want to go that far, mate. Come on, let's. I don't think we need to go that far. No one's turning into Millwall here, but I don't mind a little bit of a siege mentality. But let's not go too far. Munaf says, "Morning, Tom. Can you discuss David Ornstein's comments regarding the FFP position on Arsenal?" I mean, I kind of haven't I? I mean, I'm thank you to all the people that tagged me in that post of David Ornstein speaking about the FFP situation. I know that Kieran Maguire obviously replied to FK from Latte Fur. Make sure you subscribe if you're not about about profit and sustainability rules. But have I not always said to you and always been very consistent in letting you know that it's not PSR? PSR is not the issue for Arsenal. UEFA financial fair play is the thing that is restricting Arsenal that much more. And of course, David Ornstein speaking to the media over the weekend at Man United, confirming that it is UEFA financial fair play that is the kind of the weight holding Arsenal somewhat down right now to be able to spend, and that's why they need to move players on during this window. It's so much stricter UEFA FFP than Premier League PSR is, and it only applies to teams, of course, that are in UEFA competition. And you've already seen Chelsea get fined. You've seen Forest, I think, get fined as well. Chelsea had the benefit of the Club World Cup that got them a lot of money. Arsenal didn't have that. So it was easy for them to kind of take the fine and continue to spend because they had the Club World Cup. Arsenal didn't have that. So yeah, and Arsenal want to work comfortably. It's, whether you agree with that or not, that's just the reality. Arsenal want to work within these restrictions. They don't want to, push up to the wall of what those restrictions are. I'm kind of torn on that myself. There's part of me that's like, I get it. There's two sides to this, and I'll be curious what your thoughts are on this. It's really easy to jump into the side of just if those other clubs are doing it, just taking the fines and moving on. Why shouldn't Arsenal do that? Should we just spend and potentially take a fine if it means we win? Does it matter? There's part of me that thinks it kind of does. It kind of does matter. I don't really want to do that. There's part of me that's like, I don't really want to cheat. It is cheating. If you're getting a fine, you've got fined because you've broken the rules. If we win, I can't want to win without breaking the rules. It's something that I've kind of like always, when I've got in debates with my Chelsea supporting friends, they're like, yeah, we've done X, Y, Z. I'm like, yeah, but look how you did it. It's tarnished. It's tainted. I don't really want Arsenal to win and break rules to do it. I don't really want to do that. That's just me. I know that some of you don't really care. I don't know what that says. But I personally don't really want to be like Chelsea and getting fined, even if it means they win things, because for me, that always has a mark against it. There's always a little asterisk there for me. I'd rather Arsenal won without an asterisk next to them. So there is something, if you're familiar with Arsenal's history, now I'm not saying we're perfect, certainly not. We've made mistakes, recently. I've made a lot of mistakes as a club. I'm not saying that we're perfect, but there is something about Arsenal's kind of aura that is a reason why a lot of fans support Arsenal. And, I don't think we should really be kind of like, breaking that trend anymore. So yeah, I'm not really leaning into kind of the just spend whatever, and if we get a fine, whatever. I really do prefer Arsenal work within the rules. But you could probably argue, do we work too comfortably within the rules? How much of a gap is there for us to kind of push it a bit, but still work within them? Do we work too comfortably within those? I don't know is the answer. I don't know how comfortably we are working within it. I just know that Arsenal want to work comfortably within those rules and regulations because they can change. It's worth pointing out they can and have changed in the past. So maybe Arsenal want to be prepared if a change is on the cards at one point. Maybe that's it. Mark says, win ugly with set pieces, tactical fouls, mind games, but don't cheat. I mean, there's differences, isn't there? There's kind of like rules of the game that kind of be exploited in the sense of like set pieces I don't really get. Set pieces is part of the game. I had people saying, he's got into these Twitter debates, which I never should do. And like our open players gone down. I'm like, well, we've regressed since 22-23. And like, well, in 23-24, we got record numbers of wins, record numbers of goals, and we're only 2 points off the title. But apparently we regressed. Like, yeah, but our open play goals, it doesn't matter. They all count. The only reason we won at Man United the other day was because we scored from a set piece. I'm fine scoring from set pieces. I'm fine. They all count. I'm not fussed about it. It really doesn't bother me how we win games as long as we win games. The result over the performance any day of the week. I was chatting to judges after the game, bumped into him and Julian after the match, and I think it was Julian that said, results over performance any day. Just get the result, get the win, get the 3 points. That's what we need to do. Johnson's on Sky. They said Norgard had a slight injury. I asked Arteta after the game. I don't know if you watched me go up. Incredibly unflattering, that camera angle, by the way. I mean, if there's anything that's made me think that I need to get back on the treadmill, it's probably the images that were at the end of that press conference. I looked at that and I was like, oh, goodness, the summer has really taken its toll on you. So, yeah, it's fair to say I think the new season diet may begin now. I looked at those images, I was like, oh, goodness, I think I need to get a little bit healthier. But yeah, I asked Arteta about that, and he said that it's a slight thing. He couldn't play, so it doesn't seem like it's serious. Fingers crossed. Mark says the Semenyo speculation is fueled by his new contract being only a 1-year extension. What do you make of the Lee Kang-in rumors? I like him, but he's not. I don't necessarily think that he is a game changer for us, Lee Kang-in. I like him, but he's not a game changer. Bacon Fang says, if we can play bad and get the win, just think what we will do when the team is fit and all singing from the same song sheet. Someone is going to get a hiding. I know. I think it's all about kind of this idea that we're going to click any second, and when we do click, it's going to be great. It's just when that is going to happen is the big question, isn't it? Jamsy says, do you personally agree with the order of which Arsenal have done their business? Do you think Noni would have been an easy deal to do now had we have done other business first? So if so, was this a mistake? No, because Arsenal's priorities were signing a player who would give Arsenal depth to Bukayo Saka. It's a bonus that Madueke can give us options on the left as well. So no, I don't, because I think if you work in terms of like, if you try and get deals done in a specific order, the problem is those deals that you'd like to do the most, that are the most difficult to do, often take a lot of time. And if they take a lot of time, it's probably best. I mean, Arsenal signed 6 players. Every rival fan I spoke to, every Man United fan I was speaking to on the way up to Old Trafford was like, you've had an amazing summer. And they are very happy about the players they've signed, Sesko and Burmo and Cunha. Good summer. Attacking wise, they've done more than we have. But they still haven't had a better window overall than Arsenal, nor do I think that even their front three is even still better than ours now. But this idea that the order in which Arsenal done their deals, the question I'd ask back is that what should we have done differently that we wanted to do? Because if your answer is, well, we should have gone for Eze, they didn't want Eze if Nwaneri was going to sign a new contract. That's clear and obvious by what's happening now. If we still wanted Eze, regardless of Nwaneri's new contract, we would have done the deal. He'd be an Arsenal player right now. He would have happily moved to Arsenal. I'm more than aware that he was really open to joining Arsenal. But Arsenal haven't moved because they renewed Nwaneri's contract. They've got to move players out. They've got financial fair play pressure. And if anything, they'd rather, I think, sign a more natural left winger to replace a player like Trossard as well. I think that there's a lot we got wrong on the Eze front. I got things wrong. I think others got things wrong. The Eze story, as I always talk to you about, the transfer window is like an iceberg. You see, and we see what is on the surface sometimes, and sometimes we see it from afar. But what's beneath the surface is a lot bigger. There's a lot more going on, and sometimes we don't quite even get the surface in full clarity. And I think that certain Eze scenario definitely changed that. With the Nwaneri side of things. Let's go. Jojo says, there's nothing wrong with your hair, Tom, except that it doesn't really suit your face a bit. What hairdo would? What hair would, mate? I know I've got a massive head. I know that. It's huge. It's a blooming moon I have on these shoulders. I get that. Christ. Oh, the ruthlessness this morning in the chat. Z says, Tom, one of your previous shows was about the money situation at Arsenal, I would say 1 or 2 years ago. Who was it that was on? It was Mike. Mike Feinberg joined us. He's a bit of a financial expert. Obviously, it's difficult sometimes to talk about finances because we're not privy to all the information. So we can have like estimations and guesses, but we're not privy to all of it. But Mike knows his stuff about money. I don't know if he knows exactly about the financial fair play regulations or what those specific regulations are and how close we are. But maybe I'm sure he'll be watching. Get in touch, Mike, if you think you do know. Gunner Life says, well, he should be playing Nwaneri. Sometimes he could be more effective than Ødegaard. Play the kid. I mean, he shouldn't have come on. I know a lot of people were saying Ødegaard, should have been brought off. He shouldn't. At no point on Sunday should Ødegaard have been brought off Nwaneri. He wasn't doing particularly well, Nwaneri, in the Ødegaard in the final third. He wasn't particularly great, but he was brilliant in our own half. Having watched the game back, I think I was a bit too harsh with my rating on Ødegaard. I think I gave him a 5. I think that was quite harsh. I think I really focused in on what he failed to do in the opposition half. But defensively and in transition, Ødegaard was really good at getting us out, creating those moments, but ultimately not doing enough when getting into that kind of final third of the pitch. He made the wrong decision or the wrong execution of the pass. But if we'd have subbed off Ødegaard for Nwaneri, who has known at this point defensive question marks in terms of his work rate, I don't think we would have won the game. I saw some people suggesting that if Ozil, for instance, was there instead of Ødegaard to execute those passes better, that we would have won better, but I disagree. The thing about Ozil is that he was great for creation, but that work rate that Ødegaard provides was important to how we won the game on Sunday. And and you look at the carries. I mean, I think I put a piece out yesterday around Ødegaard that he covered more progressive ground with the ball. He was the highest carrier of the ball in terms of meters covered with the ball. And the next highest was like 90 meters less. He covered 252 meters, Ødegaard, carrying the ball on Sunday. The next highest compared to that was 92 meters less than him. He was so important to how we transitioned the ball from our half to their half. It was just that wasn't clicking as we got kind of into the final third and the right decisions weren't made. But not only that, the runs were quite poor. I thought of Saka and Martinelli in particular. Gyökeres was making some better runs that wasn't really found. But Saka and Martinelli in particular, their runs were really poor on the day. They really didn't offer. I wanted to see more movement. I wanted to see more variation. I wanted to see more variety in how we attacked. But there was so little of that. So I wouldn't have taken off Ødegaard for an area. I don't think that was the right decision at all. I think it could have ended up costing the game if we had have done so because of how the game state was. Lloyd says, what's wrong with our fan base suddenly? Gyökeres is the wrong signing after one game. Oh, it's just people that, that thought that Sesko was the better signing to make, thinking they can jump on the back. Now, I'm one of the fans that thought that Sesko was the smarter choice of the two. But Gyökeres has had one game. I'm not going to sit here and act some kind of like proud douchebag who thinks it's now right to turn around and be like, look, I told you so. Told you so. Should have gone for Sesko, who, by the way, didn't look particularly great either for Man United. So I know that people love their own opinions and love to, as soon as feasibly possible, jump on this idea of, I told you so. Gyökeres don't look great, does he? He's had one Premier League game. One Premier League game. Give the guy a chance. You can have a better conversation maybe 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months down the line. But not after one game. That's just insecurity on your half. If you're trying to use that as some kind of gotcha moment. I know that's all social media is these days, is trying to get that gotcha moment. But that's not it. That's not it. Kevin says, for me, I felt our squad rotation was better on Sunday. It was nice to see some players coming off earlier in the game, like Rice, for instance. Of course, that was good. And having players like Marino to bring on as well. Vacan says, I think the issue for many with the Madueke sign is that it was a backup right wing more important than a starting left wing. It doesn't really matter because if you don't have an obvious candidate you can sign on the left, as we didn't really have, it doesn't really matter. If we could guarantee that Arsenal could go and get that upgrade for our left-hand side, which I don't think we necessarily could, then we had to make sure that we were making sure that we did the deals that we had to still do. Rodrigo is a player I know a lot of people want, but even as we speak right now, there is no guarantees that he wants to leave Real Madrid or that Real Madrid would sell, or even for a price tag that is at all appropriate for him. He isn't a 100 million euro player, Rodrigo. He's just not. And all through the Club World Cup, he wasn't being played. And still there wasn't any signs that he was pushing for a move. And there still isn't signs that he's pushing for a move. Man City aren't in the race because apparently Savinho is now going to stay. Like the idea of that we should have prioritized the move for Rodrigo was never realistic. Never realistic. And this is what I mean, that we would have been without Madueke now. We would have been without maybe other players if we'd have prioritized that. Fabrizio Romano's come out and said that Rafael Leao never leaving Milan this summer. Never leaving Milan. So all that noise around him as an option. Xavi Simons is not a left winger who potentially could be moving to Chelsea. He's not a left wing. Jamie Gittins, for me, went for 55 million quid. Not £55 million player in my money. Lookman is kind of really focused on Inter Milan and that move, and that transpired yet. But again, Lookman was not a player who I looked at the start of the window was like, got to go for him. Nor did I see plenty of people in my comment section saying that in June and July either. It's now August and it's starting to be said, but it wasn't being said back then. Tayo says, Tom, thank you for the consistent, balanced Arsenal analysis. You're very welcome, my friend. Thank you for the kind words. Bacon Fang says, I have a problem with jumping on any of the players that are like that. The constructive criticism should always be there, but not hating on any player who just joined. It's nonsense. Matthew says, Tom, is Sunday's back four Arteta's first choice? If so, Miles Lewis-Skelly mainly will play from the bench. I don't think so. I think it's going to be changing. I think we're going to see Lewis-Skelly play games. I think we're going to see Calafiori and Timber and White interchange. I think Mosquera is going to get chances. That's the thing this season. We're going to see a lot of chances. A Miracle says, anyone see the video of Lee Judges kicking off with the fans? It looked like he was too many. Oh, dear. Come on. Let's behave. Let's behave. Like, making accusations like that is incredibly unfair. And I mean, I watched Lee's video that he did as an explanation as well. And I think what he said was fair. If you can see how the video is cut off, I've known Lee for a very, 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 very long time. And I know what he can be like in games. I know he's got that in him. But I think it's very obvious to see that was kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek. And I think the video is cut off because, as he says, everyone was kind of laughing and hugging after that moment. It was all a bit of a joke. So it's amazing and whoever cut that kind of video in the way it was cut, it's a disgrace, quite frankly, to kind of paint somebody in that light because, I can absolutely see all of those people involved in that video having a laugh and a joke afterwards, and it was seen as a bit of a fun, but people don't care, do they? They see a little cut-up video and believe it is the truth. Roshan says, Tom, why do you think Chelsea sell well? Personally, I feel it's because the super agents are given power at the club to drive business. I think it's because ultimately they buy so many players on big contracts. Those contracts have got a lot of time left on them. Those players have still played, or they've gone on loan and got minutes, so there's exposure to those players. So obviously they get those. They get those minutes, they get that time, they have a value anyway. They've already been bought for a lot of money. You look at the players that have sold, or Chelsea have sold, they're still making big losses on players that they've bought. They're not going to get as much as what they paid for Nkunku this summer. You look at the players that have gone out. Dewsbury Hall, it's a loss. Joao Felix is a loss. Who else have we got? Going to last season. I mean, Kepa Arrizabalaga, huge loss. Massive loss. 70-odd million pounds worth of loss there. Who else? Lukaku is a loss. I mean, the Hutchinson deal, I still find nuts how they got that much money for Hutchinson, and also how much Ipswich have managed to get for him as well. I think that's crazy. Kai Havertz was a loss. Koulibaly, I believe, was potentially a loss. Mateo Kovacic, I don't think that was a loss, but I think maybe it was. Pulisic, was Pulisic a loss potentially as well? Eduard Mendy was a loss also. Timo Werner was definitely a loss. So, I mean, I'm looking through these, and it's clear there's a lot of players here that are losses. The problem that Arsenal have is that Chelsea sell a lot of kind of youth players, like Fikayo Tomori, Tammy Abraham. They get good value. Billy Gilmore, they've brought money in for him. Ian Martson, I think, also potentially. They signed for not much money at all, or he came through their academy, so obviously sold in for a lot of money. Mason Mount got a lot of money for him. Ruben Loftus-Cheek came through, decent money for him. They get decent money for these players, even though they're not. Amari Hutchinson, obviously, they signed for nothing, sold well. Lewis Hall got good money, came through the academy. So, they get a lot of money for their academy players, but they do take losses on those players as well. So, it's worth pointing out. Raheem Sterling is going to be a big loss. You're absolutely right. After what they paid for him, hasn't really been able to kind of, kick on since that signing. Had one decent season, that was it. By the way, they did make profit on him. Definitely made profit on him as well. Mudryk, I mean, the loss they're going to make on Mudryk, my goodness me, it's going to be massive, isn't it? So I know that there's this idea that Chelsea always sell well. I think they sell well their youth players. They don't necessarily always sell well the other players that they've bought in. Players they've actually invested in. I think there's more misses than hits when it comes to kind of the selling of those players that they had signed initially. Also, think about the loss on Mudryk. That's going to be the loss on Joao Felix, the loss on Kepa that they've just had this summer as well. Huge losses on what ultimately was paid for those players. Patrick says, simple question, but if Eze played instead of Ødegaard on Sunday, do you think he would have converted one of those 11 transitional opportunities? Personally, I think he would have. And that's maybe an issue. But the question would be, Patrick, is would we have created as many of those transitional situations? Sorry. That's the question that goes back is, do you think that we would have created as many of those transition moments if it was Eze instead of Ødegaard? I don't know. So, and at the end of the day, if we're not signing Eze because obviously we have Ødegaard, we have Nwaneri there. Arteta feels there's other players as well. You think about Marino, who's also there. You've got Dauman potentially coming through. He's referenced these players himself in the regards to the context of that question. At the moment, Vieira is still here. We've got to try and move him on as well somehow. So if we sign someone, it's going to be a left-sided player. That's the feeling I get, that if we sign anybody, it'll be someone who plays off the left more naturally. I'm pretty sure they did lose on Felix, Jason. I'm pretty sure they did, but feel free to show me where I'm wrong. Eddie says we wanted to convert the draws that we had last year to win, just like last game. Is hanging on to a one-goal lead as a riskier as going into the second one. I mean, that's absolutely right. I think we do need to be converting the draws into wins. Like last season, we've already done that this season with United. But we need to be turning those games where we're 1 goal up into 2-goal wins, 3-goal wins, 4-goal wins. We need to go for the jugular. We need to kill off sides, as effectively as possible, as soon as possible, rather than these nervy moments all the way up until the final whistle. AFC DNB says, if Mikel Arteta doesn't trust Ethan's defensive capability, then we aren't going to see Ethan as often in that role. I think we will, but it'll be in certain games. And but he will have to develop that element of his game. And when he's shown that he can improve that side of his game, then we'll see him a lot more. But he's 18. The defensive side of his game is not something that's going to be developed at that age. You're going to focus on his strengths. You're going to focus on the side of his game that sees him make an impact in games. And as he gets into his early 20s, he will round out as a player more so and gain greater levels of defensive work rate as he develops, as he improves. Elodie says, some Arsenal fans need to stop this Ødegaard witch hunt. Even if you guys sell Ødegaard, you simply pick up another player to hunt and the cycle continues. It's very true. There is always scapegoats in the Arsenal fan base, no doubt. Watermelon says, Tom, can we also just state that Martinelli's defensive capabilities during tight games and when we're off, it helps us win matches. I know he has his flaws, but everyone has. Yeah, there's no problem in highlighting, the positives in Martinelli's game about his defensive work rate. But on the left, that defensive work rate, when you've got Declan Rice playing left 8, when you've got a strong defensive player in Calafiori and Gabriel, ultimately, I want a winger that's better in the forward areas than they are. It's a bonus that you can defend well, yes, but I'd rather have a clinical, lethal winger than one that tracks back all the time. I'd rather, cut back on some of that defensive work rate and make him more clinical and lethal in the final third for me. Aoife says, when people call for Ødegaard, I think they severely underestimate how important our press is, and we need options there, but acting like he's crap on the ball is just strange. There are people that just have their agendas, people that just don't like him, and they think it gives them some kind of whatever, clout, ego, I don't know. Patrick says, any word on a Rice injury? He looked to be discussed. I don't think he's just fully fit yet. I think he was just being saved. I've not heard anything to suggest that he's not okay. And John says, 2 things I did not miss from last season seeing this weekend is defending a 1-goal lead and watching Ben White hold the ball for throw-ins. How about you? The long throws came back, didn't they? The long balls came, the long throws came back in after that PSG game. It seems to be something that they want to use more as a bit of a weapon because it does. We are so good from set pieces. We are so chaotic in the box that we can do damage from those. And I've got too much of a problem with it, to be honest. If you can turn a throw-in into a chance, you've got a marginal gain there that you've benefited from. So I haven't got too much of an issue with the long throw situation. Andy says the difference between ours and United's fitness levels was a bit concerning, 10 to 15% difference. I don't think it was to do with fitness levels. I thought it was to do with how open we were in transition. We gave the ball away too often in positions where we'd overly committed, and it just left us so open. So I don't think it was fitness. I think we were forced to run a lot more. We had to be up and down the pitch because of our own mistakes, and that needs to be refined moving forwards as well, especially in the Liverpool game that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. Anyway, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy yourselves. Have a fantastic week. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning for more updates, more transfer news, more injury updates if they come. But we'll be live regardless tomorrow, 8 a.m. as usual. Do make sure you check out, of course, the show that we've done yesterday off the back of the win. And we should have an afternoon show for you either today or tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Look out for that. I'll try and give you some heads up with a tweet or a post on the community tab or in the Discord. But we should have a show for you with a special guest today or tomorrow around 5. So look out for that. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.